Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Adrienne Ross Show, the basketball edition. Listen, first of all, I want to say I did it. I had a goal at the beginning of this week. I said it's a bold goal. I want to reach 40,000 by the end of the week, and it wasn't a number that was right around the corner. But I set the goal, and you know what? We hit the goal today. I knew last night. I knew that we were going to get there, or yesterday, maybe even before last night. I could tell the way things were rolling that we were going to get there. And it's so interesting because I happened to be checking my analytics when we were right at 40,000, even as you can see right there. We're above that now. Last time I looked, we were about 27 above that. But yeah, I got to catch 40,000 right there. So thank you to those who smashed that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. And now, hey, onward and upward together. All right, now to what I want to talk about today. I talked a little bit about game one of the WNBA Finals in my video yesterday about Stephanie White and Christy Sides, but I didn't get too deep into it, right? I tuned into the game at some time during the third quarter, and then it didn't look like New York had a chance of losing that game at all, but they did in overtime. And it really was quite the ending to the game. And now today, I'm seeing the word choked in various and sundry places because people are pointing out that Breanna Stewart choked not only at the end of regulation, but also at the end of overtime. So you're seeing them in big bold letters, choked. And I ain't gonna say she didn't choke. In fact, this morning I had a little fun. I had taken a picture of my two cats looking out the window. And so I threw up a post on YouTube in which I said, look, if you're super sensitive, you don't want to read because, yeah, I was having a little fun at Breanna Stewart's expense. My cats looking out the window. I said that they were in search of Breanna Stewart's crunch time game, something like that. I said, because yeah, she choked. So I'm not going to disagree with the people who said that, but I am going to come with a different perspective because I don't think that was the biggest choke in the game or even the biggest two chokes in the game. I don't think the biggest choke in the game even belongs to Breanna Stewart. Not that she didn't choke, but there was a bigger choke in this game. And I'm going to get to that. But first, I want to show you the end of regulation or toward the end of regulation when, listen, first of all, let me set this up for those of you who don't know. This game was out of hand, right? I mean, they meaning Minnesota was down by 18 points at one point. This comeback is tied for the largest comeback in WNBA history for playoffs. So it was huge, but they just kept in it. They just kept fighting. And when it looked like it was over, they said it wasn't over. Okay. And so let's take a look at this play, which turned everything around. Here it is. All right. So no sound. Just check this out. Ball's already in the air. Here's Courtney Williams over here. You can see the clock, 11.2 on the clock. Minnesota is down 3 points. 3 points, 11.2. Let's take a look. And this face right here that you see from this man, this face says it all. This face says it all. I'm going to come back to this after a while, but first of all, I just want to talk you through this really fast here. The shot goes up. Courtney Williams over here, 10.4 on the clock at this point, misses the shot, but what happens? They crash the boards, right? So Smith grabs the rebound here, And what does she do? Now, what could she have done? There's 8.5 seconds on the clock. You are down 3 points. 8.5 is a long time in basketball when you're down one possession. So she could have, as many people would have done, she could have said, you know what, I'm gonna turn and try to get in, I'm gonna try to get a 2 and possibly draw contact and get the and 1 and then tie it that way. So she could have done that. But what she said was, no, we're gonna go for the tie. We're not gonna go for the 2. Now, if she had gone for the 2 and not gotten fouled and she got the 2, then what do? Everybody gets up and defends. You get into, you get into denial of the ball, and then you give a quick foul. If you don't get a steal, you foul and you put them on the line and you get it back, and you stretch the game out and give yourself an opportunity to win. So she didn't have to make this heads up play, but she did. So what does she do? She gets the rebound and she kicks it out to Courtney. And Courtney makes sure, look at where she catches the ball, right? She's not in 3-point area yet, but she looks and she sees where she is. She steps, she makes sure she's behind the line. And what does she do? Boom. She takes the shot and she gets fouled by Ionescu in the process. So now the score is 83-83. And she gets to go to the line, 83-83. And what? She gets to go to the line with 5.5 on the clock with an opportunity to take the lead. They were down 18 at one point. They had not even had the lead in this game at all until she steps to the free throw line. And what does she do? She hits the free throw. Hits the free throw. Okay. So I'm going to come back to that in a moment, but let's go to the first choke by Breanna Stewart. Guys, remember, Breanna Stewart is no player to sneeze at. MVP last year. She's won championships. She's the go-to player. Yeah, you would want the ball in her hand with the game on the line. Remember, this is New York. They have home court advantage. And what they're supposed to do is they're supposed to, what they would say in tennis as hold serve. Okay, hold serve. Now, what is Minnesota thinking? Minnesota is thinking, yeah, we want to come in and steal one, right? We want to steal one. So if we can even get just one, obviously you want to win every game, but the mindset generally is if I can go in and on the road and steal one, then I take away home court advantage. And then even if we go home having split and now we're 1-1, we still get the next 2 games at home and an opportunity to win at home. So they would have, stolen home court advantage, which eventually we find out that they did. But there was a lot going on at the end of regulation. You can look at the highlights. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm just going to say this. So at one point, here we are at the end of the game with barely any time on the clock. And Breanna Stewart gets to go to the line to shoot 2. Okay? At this point, it's 84-83 at this point after Courtney Williams made the shot. Now let's go to Breanna Stewart on the free throw line. Okay. So this place right here, she has already made a free throw. There 0.8 seconds left in this game. Minnesota had gone up 84-83 when Courtney Williams made the and 1. She made the shot after she was fouled. So she's up 1, but there was a foul called. Breanna Stewart gets to go to the line and shoot 2. Where you're picking up here, she'd already made 1. Guys, there's 0.8 on the clock and you're tied, and you've got Breanna Stewart on the line to end this thing. And what happens? No sound. Just take a look. Let's look at that one more time. So as you can see there, she missed the opportunity with 0.8 to win this game. I mean, there was 0.8 when she took the shot, but the chances of getting a shot off, choked. This is why people are saying she choked. It is wild because I'm home, I'm looking at this, I'm standing up, and the thought that came to my mind was, wouldn't it be wild that she missed this shot? Now, mind you, I wanted her to miss the shot because I'd like to see Nafisa Collier win. Okay, so I'm just like, oh my goodness, what if she, and she misses it. She misses it and she cannot believe it. There's 0.8. So anyway, what ends up happening is after she chokes, then they go into overtime. In overtime, Minnesota struck first, and they, New York Liberty, it took them a while to get on the board, and then Minnesota threw away the ball 2 times. And then here it is, another opportunity. Breanna Stewart gets another opportunity, and people are saying she choked for the second time. Let's take a look. Now, you can't see it here, but the score is Minnesota 95, New York 93, and they got an opportunity to, and it was a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Like I said, you got to see it, but now they have an opportunity to tie this game. 93-95, Sabrina is inbounding the basketball. Breanna Stewart is here. Nafisa Collier, Defensive Player of the Year, is guarding her, but she can't keep Breanna from getting that ball. And so she does. So let's just see in regular motion, regular speed, how this plays out. This is after they blew it and Breanna Stewart choked at the end of regulation. This is the opportunity at the end of overtime, down 2. This is what happens. Okay, so wow, when you see Breanna Stewart's face there, you got to imagine she's just no words, right, for how she's feeling. Choking again, some people are saying, some people are pointing out. And so here we again have UNESCO. She's inbounding the ball, and Brianna cuts hard to the ball, and she manages to get the ball, but Collier's right on her hip. But that doesn't stop her from getting the ball. She gets the ball, and look, it is like the wide open Red Sea right here. She gets it, she turns, and what does she do? She attacks. And they close in. Now, she could have kicked out here, right? But she's going to attack the basket, try to get the 2, tie the game, maybe get fouled. But she sees a wide open opportunity and she goes in and misses the layup. And so therefore, people are saying you choked. It looked like it went in, but it didn't. It went on the other side. When I first saw it, I had thought it had gone in. No, she missed it, and the game expired. There was like hardly any time left in the game at that point. I mean, it was just enough time to go try to drive to the basket. The clock expired at this point, and they lose. They lose after being up 18 points and having an opportunity. They've never won a championship. They've had plenty of opportunities. They get rid of the aces, and then boom, she chokes again. So people are like, oh my goodness, she missed the layup. Now, I'm going to give her some grace and mercy because I know people are saying it's a layup, but she had it wide open. But listen, look at this, though. I mean, honestly, she's got 1 body, 2 bodies, 3 bodies, and as she gets closer, 4 bodies on her trying to stop her. Even though she had a good look at it, in all honesty, one could say, it's not like she was wide open and there were no white jerseys around, right? There were some white jerseys around, but she still was able to split the defense here and get a good look. And as some people are saying, she choked. So, wow. And people are like, people like me, I was making fun. I was having a little bit of fun with it. And other people are like, oh my goodness, this girl just choked. And it's something. But here's what I want to say, as I pointed out, that was not the biggest choke at the end of regulation or at the end of overtime. First of all, the whole team choked because when you're up 18 with an opportunity to take a 1-0 lead in the finals of the WNBA, you need to finish what you started. They should never have let Minnesota get back in the game. So you gotta say, okay, it's easy to point to her and say you had the opportunity, and she did. But what happened to get them even to that point? She did not have a good shooting night. Her percentage was not good, and neither was Ionescu. Her percentage was not good. Okay, so they didn't have great shooting nights, whatever. And yet they're still winning this game by a whole lot. No one would have thought that Minnesota would have walked out there with a win. So how did the whole team choke? That's number one. But number two, the person who choked, I'm going to say even more than Breanna Stewart, is Sabrina Ionescu. Why? Because she didn't have a good shooting night? No, that's not why. Let me take you back to the end of regulation, to this play with Courtney Williams. I already showed you, and I told you we'd get back to. I'm going to show you what choking really is, to even get you to the point where you need Breanna Stewart not to choke. Check it out again. Now, again, you see the ball in the air here. The shot had been taken, 11 seconds left in the game in regulation, end of the fourth quarter. They missed the shot. They get the rebound. Okay, so there's that. So actually, I should point out, not boxing out and getting the rebound, there's a choke right there. Okay, but the major choke here. So here it is. They get the offensive rebound. They have enough sense to kick it back out. Courtney Williams had jutted out to the three-point line. She's ready to shoot, catch, and she shoots. And what happens? She ends up on the floor. Why? Because Sabrina Ionescu fouled her. The shot seemingly miraculously goes in, but it's an and one, and she comes to the line with ice water in her veins, and she knocks down the shot, unlike Breanna Stewart was able to do on her second shot. So she gets the shot, and there you go. But the biggest choker here is this circle right here you see. The biggest choker right here is Sabrina Ionescu. Why? Because let me tell you the rule about defense in basketball, and that is never, ever, ever foul a jump shooter. You guys got to forgive me. The sun is setting, and all of a sudden, I feel like I'm sitting in the dark. So actually, I'm gonna turn the light on. That's better. The power of editing, I tell you. Okay, so again, the number one rule in basketball in terms of defense is never, ever, ever foul a jump shooter, right? A shot out here is not a high percentage shot. But if you are going to D up that tight, which of course you want to D up tight, but you don't want to foul. But listen, a three in this situation where it's 80-83, New York up three, the worst that could happen if you don't foul is that Courtney Williams ties the game and you've got 83-83. But when you commit the cardinal sin of defense and you foul her, you give her an opportunity to not only tie the game, but now to go ahead in the game, which they did, and it was their first lead in the entire game, right? So this is the choke. This is the choke because this is Sabrina Ionescu failing to remember and failing to implement proper defense and the most basic of defensive rules, which is never, ever foul a jump shooter, and in particular, shooting from the three. So I know Breanna Stewart choked. I'm not trying to give her an out, but I'm going to tell you that this was the biggest choke of all, that you got so choked up that you failed to remember the basics. And is Sabrina a horrible defensive player? Here's the thing about it. I did a little research, and this is what I found. This is from herhoopstats.substack.com, and it tells us about Sabrina Ionescu. It says, as far as defense goes, Ionescu's fine. She has the second lowest foul percentage. We're talking about in the entire league. So she's not sending opposing players to the line. Here it is again. This is the most important part I want to make right here. She has the second lowest foul percentage, so she's not sending opposing players to the line. But she did. She did on one of the biggest games of her basketball career. She committed the cardinal sin. She choked in that moment. She absolutely choked. Now, Breanna Stewart had the opportunity to try to undo her choke, because if Sabrina doesn't choke, then Breanna Stewart is not even in position to have to make a free throw, make 2 free throws, and then only make 1. And she certainly wouldn't have been in a position in overtime to have to go against 4 bodies around her, even though she got a good look at a layup and choked again. But the bigger choke, as far as I'm concerned, is the choke that put them in that place to begin with. And that goes to, number one, the team for putting themselves in that position, but then the basics of basics of basics being trampled on by fouling someone shooting a 3, which can't beat you, can only tie you, but you foul her and you put your team in a position. And so now New York at home loses home court advantage, and Nafisa Collier and the Minnesota Lynx have stolen one. And you know what? If they can go back and win 2 at home, they're fine. If they can get another one, then they're even better. And here's the thing. A lot of people will say, I said this last night, I went on live. I wasn't planning on it, but when it went into overtime, I did a live stream for members of the channel. And I said this, it might seem like just one game in a 5-game series, but things like this have a way of impacting you. It's when you are so close to victory and you mess it up like they did, sometimes it can be difficult to turn it around, to pick yourself up. It's almost like the momentum was totally snuffed. The carpet was pulled out from under you, and all of a sudden you can be drowning and you can't find a way to get up and catch your breath. We're going to find out if that happens. We've got some experience on the New York Liberty, so we've got some great players. They've got a great coach. I expect that they're going to bring it, but I would not be surprised if this has deflated them, and we'll find out that they just couldn't bring themselves back up emotionally to do the job physically. So there you have it. Choke, 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 choke. Lots of chokes all around. The greatest choke, I'm going to say, in this game, when it came down to the wire, was not Breanna Stewart, although she choked, but it was, in fact, Sabrina Ionescu. There it is. I might share some more with you from my own personal experience, because I find this so interesting. The way that the end of regulation went down with Courtney Williams reminds me of my senior year of high school, where I was in a similar situation, not the big old game of the finals, but a similar situation, taking a big shot. It didn't turn out the way it turned out for her, but maybe I'll share that. And then it's also fascinating to me because the way it turned out for Breanna Stewart at the end, at the foul line, I should say, at the end of regulation, reminds me of the last game I ever coached, the biggest game of my career I ever coached. So I may do individual videos about those things. But for now, I'm going to say, tell us what you think in the comments. Hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.